Hey guys, what's happening? So recently somebody on YouTube asked me to cover mapcat in Clojure, so that's this video. Uncool. The first thing we're going to do is make a new project using line new. I'm just going to call this one mapcar. Okay, I'll call it mapcar. CD into mapcar and open it in VS Code. Once I'm in VS Code, I'm going to just go to source core.clj. I'm going to start my REPL using Clojure again, and I've taken the auto evaluate on save off, which I should have done forever ago. Anyway, cool. So now we can just test that the REPL is working. I'm just going to run +1 and Alt Enter. It's working. We get 2. Cool. So in order to cover mapcat, I'm going to cover a few things. I'm going to cover map. I'm going to cover apply. I'm going to cover concat. And then we'll get to mapcat. So cool. Let's cover map first. Let's say we have a vector of data. I'm going to define a vector here. I'm going to call it numbers. And I'm going to call it 1, 2, 3, 4. And then let's say 3, 2, 1. Cool. So we have a vector of numbers. Let's just evaluate that by pressing Alt Enter. And let's say I want to perform an operation on each of these numbers individually. The function to do that with is map. So if we write map and pass through our numbers, then we can also pass through a function here that will operate on each of these numbers. So let's just make that function. So I'm going to define a function and I'm going to call it, let's say, duplicate number. And this is going to take one number and return us a vector of 2 numbers. Well, of the number doubled. So evaluate that. So if I run duplicate number on 10, I'll get a vector of 2 10s. Cool. So if I map numbers and run duplicate number, I'll get a bunch of vectors. So I'll get 1 1, 2 2, 3 3, then 4 4 1, and 3 3 2 2 1. And that's essentially map. Cool. So what does apply do? So let's say let's say the function max. And what max does is it takes a whole bunch of numbers and will return us the highest number. So if we pass through 10, 100, 20, 40, 60, or 49, 60, this is going to return 100 because that's the highest of these numbers. But now I want to run max on these numbers. So if I just pass through those numbers now, I'll just get them returned. And that's because if you just run max with one argument, it's just going to return whatever that argument is. So how do I run this max function with these values? Well, we can do that using apply. So if I run, just get rid of this. So if I write apply, and apply takes in the function that we want to run on all of our arguments, and that's going to be max. Then we pass through a vector of our arguments, in that case numbers, and if we run this, we should get 4 back. So essentially what this has done is it's running max like this. That's easy enough, and that should also just give us 4. Now let's look at what concat does. Concat actually just takes in vectors, let's say a vector of 1 1 and a vector of 2 2, and then it returns us a single vector or a single list. Now what we would want to do is, let's say we want to run our map of duplicate numbers, which returns us all these individual vectors, but we actually at the end we want a result of a single list. Well, what we could do is we could actually use apply and run concat on the result of map duplicate numbers. And that will return us a list. Then what's happening is map duplicate numbers is returning us a list of separate vectors, and then concat is receiving those lists as different arguments using apply, and then generating us one single result list. So that's cool. We could do that. Or what we could rather do is we could use mapcat. So mapcat will take in this function that we supply to map, which is here, duplicate number, and then take in our numbers, which is just a vector of numbers. And if we run this, we'll get the same result. So essentially mapcat, what it expects is it expects that this duplicate number function is going to return a vector or a list or something, and then it will run concat on that list at the end to make it a single list. And that's essentially mapcat. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Cheers.